There are a whole host of new tanks coming to World of Tanks console, and today's video is going to go through all of the news that we have around these brand new tanks, and also we're then going to have a look at what Wargaming have released about some of the upcoming tanks and upcoming information that we have for the following weeks as well. So to start, let's have a look at these new tanks. They are, of course, the Chinese Light and Tank Destroyer, and there are 5 new Chinese tanks that will be coming into World of Tanks, and they are as follows. The Norinco Type 62, which comes off of, this is the first one, and it gives access to the Type 62-1, and this is exactly what it looks like, very much like the Type 62, and we also have some kind of interesting things about it. Effectively, basically what it is that the tank will automatically be unlocked if you have the Elite Type 63-1 before the branch goes live, so that will be nice. So make sure that if you are interested in getting this straight away, then you have elited the Type 63-1, which is already in the game. But ultimately, this is a tank that will play very much like an aggressive light tank, one that if you've ever played any of the World War II tech tree line, then you'll be able to play this in Cold War with the same kind of effect, where you have a little bit of armour, but you're predominantly very fast, and you've also got the kind of higher alpha damage gun for a light tank, although in Cold War you're probably not going to be having too much fun coming up against Subject 268s and the FV4005, but yeah, definitely a tank that will be interesting, and that tank leads on to the Type 62-1. And this is a tank that then leads on to the WZ-132 Model 3, which is a tank we will see in a second. And this is basically a tank that is it's going to play very much the same. It's got these kind of heat shields, it's got the spaced armor, so it's becoming more modern in its look. And also you'll be seeing basically this tank getting slightly faster. You're going to see increases to the gun handling between this and the previous Type 62 right here, and I think that in general these tanks are going to be quite interesting to play. Are they going to be super overpowered? No, probably not. Light tanks don't typically be that good, especially when you're talking about the fact that they are Chinese, and the Chinese light tanks aren't always that OP or like super good within the game, and I think that when you come into the fact that light tanks have typically been nerfed, and Wargaming are very scared to release some really overpowered light tanks, because you know how the Armadillo went, and also some of the others like the Cobra Arctic Hiss, etc. Yeah, I don't think Wargaming are going to go too hard on that kind of idea. However, what we do see is from the Type 62-1, similar sort of style to what we already have in World War II, and then we move on to something kind of a little bit different. And this one looks like it's a little bit top heavy. Just looks like this thing's going to fall over frontward. But yeah, the WZ-132 Model 3, this is a light tank, and this comes in the escalation era, so that's number 2, era 2. And this one will probably be the first one. And it's unlocked with the Type 62-1, and it gives access to the Type 63HG. The difference between this and something like the T62-1 is obviously you can see our main arm is much bigger. So you've got a combined high mobility and also firepower, and it was basically... It's going to come in quite nicely. I think that this tank is going to be one of the solid performers in the escalation era. Is it going to be as good as something like an Armadillo? Is it going to be so annoying as an Armadillo? Probably not, but I think that this tank will definitely stomp, and if you can get them into the right position, I feel like because of the mobility of this and also the kind of arm model of it as well, you'll be able to have some really good games. But I don't think that, like, if you're interested in only being competitive within World of Tanks, then you probably shouldn't get these first, because they probably aren't like the pinnacle of being really, really amazing tanks within the game. But sometimes World of Tanks isn't about just playing the most overpowered tank and wondering why you're doing better than when you're playing in something that's known to be terrible. You know, sometimes it's fun to play those terrible tanks and still come top within the game. But And moving on to quite possibly one of the weirdest tanks that I've seen, and this is a boat tank. Yeah, this tank looks absolutely ridiculous. The Type 63 HG. It's basically an amphibious light tank in reality, but remember, this is World of Tanks. We don't actually have anywhere to go in the water, and if you do go in the water, you'll drown. So don't go trying to take this thing into the actual into the water with the Type 63 HG, because you will still drown, I expect. I don't think Wargaming will have introduced anything that actually allows you to not drown. So yeah, I guess that feature just won't be in the game. Maybe it will be in the future, but I don't know. Anyway, regardless of that, what does the tank offer? Well, you've got basically the speed. You've got a 105mm and in place of the 85mm, and a reconfigured hull to improve its seafaring capabilities. Whether or not we'll see like that seafaring capabilities be used in a later date, I don't know. But as an overall general look at it, I think it's going to be pretty annoying to turn. I don't know how quick it's going to turn, so dependent on like its hull traverse and its turret traverse, will make it somewhat interesting to see. But yeah, is it going to be super overpowered? No. And then this tank, instead of going on to another light tank, it essentially just then goes back into the medium tank line that we already have for the Chinese line within the game. So yeah, definitely the final end tier light tank for the Chinese line. Now, moving on, we have then quite possibly one of the weirdest tanks, and it is the Type 89. So yeah, the Type 89 is this sort of tank. It almost looks like an M53-55 that's kind of been shortened and obviously given a little bit more armor. Now this has a China's People's Liberation Army sought to add to its armament a vehicle with a gun capable of piercing the armor of most modern battle tanks. It debuted the Type 89 tank destroyer in the late 1980s to fulfill this request, and had a 120mm smoothbore gun that could fire APFSDS rounds. However, the lack of gun stabilization meant it could not fire accurately while the tank was moving, so only 100 units are believed to have been produced. So effectively, the tank was really good, and then they actually moved it and it was terrible. So that seems quite funny, to be honest with you. Let's make a tank that can't actually fire on the move when Modern Warfare is basically all based around just being able to hit on the move. Yeah, not a good idea, I don't think. Regardless of what modern actual warfare is like in tanks, the M53-55 short, or the Type 89, is basically looking like it's going to be, if you've ever played the Object 268 version 4, a similar sort of thing. I think you're going to have probably quite good armor, but yeah, you sacrifice quite a lot in regards to doing that. I don't think it's going to be that particularly that fast, and I certainly wouldn't, if the description is anything to believe, be able to fire on the move. So yeah, not looking quite good for this tank, but an interesting one, definitely a funny looking tank, and I guess that's the key thing about the game. And then, as with every single kind of release of new tanks within the game, we also get a specific challenge which will allow you to essentially get more silver for basically taking them out and also playing them. And then you'll also be able to, if you assist with 100,000 or more damage due to your spotting or vehicles in any number of battles in a Chinese light tank or tank destroyer, you'll get 1 million silver, 3 years of premium, 10 2x vehicle XP boosters, and 10 4x commander XP boosters, which is actually really good. I would recommend you actually jump on and get those. Really, really useful. Make sure to give your own thoughts on these tanks in the comment section down below, and we'll move on to the next piece of the video, which is looking at the changes that Wargaming made last week, as well as a couple of other things that I think is really, really interesting to talk about as well, with regards to the extra events that are coming out next week, and also how World of Tanks is actually getting on right now. So, first things first, what did we have going on last week? Well, we had essentially the Darrell Higa Senior Game Economics Designer and BAM 1500 League Game Designer join us this week for the Red Tiger season, which was basically 20,000 of you have been able to complete it already. And also, we saw the return of the Valkyria Chronicles tanks, which were for a limited time and started March 8th. And I think that they go for 2 weeks. So I think you can pick them up until like the 20-something of March. So just make sure that if you are interested in them, then you pick them up. My personal opinion of which one is the best one, I would go with probably the Edelweiss. I think that this tank is a much better version, hence why you see the win rate much better as well. So yeah, definitely a tank that's interesting to play and much better than the Nameless. Don't know if I'll do a video entirely on the Nameless, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. New Cold War Premium as well, the WZ122 Escalation Era Medium, which is a tank that has a 53% win rate, but I wouldn't really look too much at the win rates of these tanks. I think it's an interesting one, and we will definitely do a video on it because it has some really interesting mechanics that I think you guys are going to be... It will be an interesting video, trust me. Then we'll also have the Iron Warrior Challenge, which completes various objectives to earn premium time, which I'm sure many of you have already done. Don't forget the Iron Rain is on sale right now, and trust me, the Iron Rain is one of the best premiums I've played in such a long time. It was so much fun testing that out and doing that video for you guys, so definitely try it out and give it a go. Don't forget that if you are wondering why the game looks so much better now, the colour filters were also removed as part of last week's update, and they basically finally did it, which is really, really good. I am so glad that the colour filters have been removed from the game. Every single map genuinely looks like 10 times better, and we said this when they were first introduced. I think that everyone kind of just forgot about it and didn't realise how much better they actually looked, and so when they came off, like, everyone was surprised just how much better. Everyone knew that the colour filters were terrible when they first came in, but yeah, definitely is so much better now that they've been removed. So that is why the game looks much more vibrant, much more kind of interesting to look at, and I'm very much glad that that happened. And I guess from that point, and we also have some other issues that Wargaming have corrected, and that is that the contracts had incorrect vehicle requirements being displayed for the Tusk and the Machine. We've also got ammo changes no longer reset when tabbing to the other gun within the ammo selection for multiple weapon vehicles. So this is something I actually noticed. So when you were swapping to the multi-weapon feature, then it would actually then reset the ammo of your previous tank. So like completely nullified the point of actually swapping between the two, but that's also been changed, so that's fine. Address an issue where tanks would display sideways, which was always fun as well. And then we've basically had some extra couple of things. Reduce the damage FX in sniper view, which is kind of, yeah, it helps with the game. And then update to Xbox and Scarlet to address a voice chat crash, so that's always good. And then upcoming Cold War Chinese light tanks, as we talked about, and you can have a look back at those if you want to. But also between the 18th and the 21st of March, there will be a class-based matchmaking test that you guys will be able to participate in. And there is also a new Cold War Premium, the Type 59D, which will be coming next week. And we've also got a remastered map, Hidden Village, which is another new map coming back into the game. And this will be a featured video that will go into the map itself, showcase where the good positions are, because it was a previously introduced, well, it was a map previously, they removed it, and then it's coming back in. So it's not a new map, it's just another map that Wargaming kind of messed up on in update 6.0, but it's coming back and it is an interesting one. And then of course we have the St. Patrick's Day events that are coming out, as well as lucky keycards which come out every year, and these basically feature essentially commanders. They're like the, what was the hero, the ones we had recently, the mythology keycards. They're essentially the same sort of thing where you open one, it's guaranteed a commander. And you could potentially get like a 1 in 100 chance of getting a premium tank. But don't ever open these thinking that you're going to be able to get a premium tank, because trust me, you'd have to open like $130 worth to be able to get on drop rate to get a premium tank. And I think that some of the premium tanks are like tier 6s as well. So yeah, definitely don't go open these thinking you're going to get tanks. So just a quick note there. And then the Lucky Tank Madness Challenge, where you can effectively win 3 battles in which you dealt at least 250 damage to receive a random reward, which includes keycards, 2D commanders, emblems, vouchers, silver, and boosters, which is all really, really good. So make sure that you're playing next week to be able to get all of this. And remember, there is always a weekly shout out. This week, there are some interesting ones, like crazy ones. And most kills in a single battle this week were 12, so that's the highest destroyed in one game, which includes General 1478 in the Hotchkiss. We've got Quasimodo 28 in the Hellcat 105, the most broken tank destroyer at tier 6. And then we have, I'm sorry, I literally don't know how to do that without butchering it, in the NM 116. But yeah, well done everyone for doing that. And then there's one thing that actually is just unbelievable. And these are the milestones. So Storm Rider 45 and NI 860 KI for reaching 90,000 battles within the game. And then there's also a huge shout out to Fox Elix Astur, who played their 140,000th battle this week. Now, to put that into perspective, I have played 24,000 games, right? And I've played like 200 days game time. So that's actual, like how long I've been on the game is 200 days. This person has played 7 times the amount of games that I've played. Like, that's just actually ridiculous. So the amount of effort and dedication you have to put into World of Tanks console to be able to reach 140,000 battles. Yeah, I take my hat off to you. So well done. And everyone will be sending you a lucky key card shortly. Like, that's just terrible. A lucky key card. At least give them like 5 top secret key cards, because some of these achievements are really, really good, especially the 140,000 battles. That should definitely get more than just a lucky key card. So yeah, well done everyone. And of course, thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section down below, and make sure to ask anyone else as well. And make sure to leave your thoughts on the new tanks coming into the game, being the Chinese Lights and Tank Destroyer. And of course, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.